So to close our renewables block and explore further why and how to finance Brazil development as a carbon power, we will now hear from BNDES, one of the largest financiers of renewable energy in the world. It's my pleasure to call to the stage Luciana Costa, Managing Director of Infrastructure, Energy Transition and Climate Change at BNDES. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being here and listening to us. I would like to thank Jorge and Luisa and Brazil Climate Summit for the opportunity. And after listening to a lot of very smart people in the morning, I just would like to recap some points. And I have a presentation, but after talking to Jorge, he will forward the presentation later on. Because I would like first to stick to the points. I will just... Yes. No other big economy has all the combined advantages that Brazil has. We have been talking to this in the morning. We have geopolitical stability and the privilege to talk to the global south, to Europe, to the US, and we are a country of continental size. We have abundant resources. We are able to secure our own food security and provide food security to the rest of the world. Brazil is the largest net exporter of food. We are a global biofuel powerhouse. We have clean energy matrix and also an integrated system, so we are able to deliver cheap renewable energy anywhere in the country, in a country of continental size. We haven't talked a lot about critical minerals, but Brazil is also a power of critical minerals. And we have a strong government support for this agenda. And Brazil has the largest development bank in the Americas and the largest infrastructure and energy bank, which is BNDES. In terms of macro stability, last year Brazil has done its homework. So I brought some figures. I will not stick to it. We also have done our job, part of our jobs in terms of controlling deforestation. I brought this, I would like to stick to this because Isabella is here. We have been able to control deforestation in the past, but if we don't take care of the population, deforestation can come back. So look at what Lula and Dilma, they have done in the past in terms of deforestation. It was a huge success, but the Amazon region has almost 30 million people and they need means of living. So deforestation came back. It's mostly related to crime in Brazil. It's not related to the agribusiness. And if we are able to develop the region, we will control deforestation in the future. In terms of renewable energy, we are a powerhouse and we have still a lot to go. Brazil can be the one among the largest players in biomethane, in solar, in offshore wind, in onshore wind. I don't know how familiar people are with our renewable, but our capacity factor on the onshore energy is in Brazil is better than offshore wind in some other countries in the world. So Brazil has in the world the best condition for wind. And that's I told you. We have local demand for green hydrogen for our renewable industry. It's our goal, like Clarissa mentioned in the morning, to export products with low content of carbon and intense in energy. That's the objective of Brazil. I know that, like Anne-Sophie mentioned, it's going to be a huge battle in terms who will be exporting green hydrogen, who will be buying green hydrogen, but more than 70–80% of the green hydrogen that will be produced in Brazil will be for local consumption. Vale is the biggest player in buying fuel. So Petrobras is a huge consumer of hydrogen, so we have an internal market also for that. We need to be integrated, but we are also a big country, and we need here one important thing. That sometimes Brazil has a different pattern in terms of emission, in terms of powerhouse. In Brazil, green hydrogen will be cheaper than blue hydrogen. So that's a matter of fact. In 2030, according to Bloomberg, our 1 kilo of green hydrogen in Brazil will cost less than $1.5. So, and this is a way of contribution to the reindustrialization of the country. In terms of biofuels, Brazil is also we have talked a lot about our power matrix, about our electric matrix, about our grid, but our power matrix is also very renewable. Brazil has a 48% renewable power matrix compared to 14% energy matrix, compared to 14% of the OECD. So, I mean, we stick that our grid is 90+% renewable, but our energy matrix is also very renewable because of biofuels, because of biomass. In Brazil, more than 90% of the vehicles, light vehicles, runs with biofuels. And one car running with biofuels in Brazil issues less greenhouse gas emission than a full battery car in Europe, considering the life cycle of the battery. So those are important advantages to recall. Talking a little bit about ethanol, Brazil has we have to look to the past. I agree with Isabella, we have to look to the future, but in the past we will find lessons of success cases and lessons of mistakes. Ethanol, our power sector, we can find important lessons there on how to scale up some important markets. Talking a little bit about biofuels and critical minerals. And one thing that I would like to call the attention of the audience is that energy transition is about infrastructure. Different from the digital revolution, when a lot of startups came, like Google, Amazon, Facebook, and I mean, those were startups which grew up in the energy transition. Energy transition is about infrastructure, is about hard assets. So in order to do the energy transition, we will need the existing companies, the existing oil companies, the existing electricity companies, and we will have to improve infrastructure. One gap that Brazil has is regarding infrastructure. In China, the stock of infrastructure in China correspond to 60% of China GDP. The stock of infrastructure in India corresponds to 58% of India GDP. In Brazil, our stock of infrastructure corresponds to 34% of our GDP. So we have pretty more or less half of the infrastructure that China has. This is a huge gap and a huge opportunity, and I will tell why. Brazil has started with the concessions in the modern area 30 years ago, and we have evolved a lot in regulatory framework in different infrastructure sectors. As you can see, in electricity, we don't have a huge gap because we were able to create a very sophisticated regulatory framework. Of course, the regulatory framework has to improve. We have to fix some mistakes that we currently have in our regulatory framework, but we will not start from the zero. We have done something, we have to go to the next step. And we have evolved in concession of toll roads, we have evolved a lot in ports, in water and sanitation. So here there is a huge gap and a huge opportunity, given the fact that for the past 30 years, Brazil has learned a lot of lessons in terms of infrastructure. Infrastructure regulatory frameworks, not something easy, not something that we can copy and paste from another country. We have to learn with our own lessons. Here, the gap of infrastructure and what happened last year. At BNDES, I'm responsible for infrastructure, energy transition, and climate change. Last year, we were able to approve 78 billion reais of project finance for infrastructure. We grew almost 30%. And for infrastructure, currently, 85% of BNDES funding has no subsidy. So we were able to do that without huge amount of subsidies. Just 15% has subsidy. Great part of that goes to the agro, to Plano Safra. I don't know who is familiar with Plano Safra, but in infrastructure, basically we have Fundo Clima, but very small amount of money. We were able to do that because BNDES has been very innovative in structures. We started with non-recourse project finance. We started with partial recourse. We started de-risking through guarantees. BNDES has started to act as a ranger in capital markets and has been recognized by Infrastructure Journal in the US as the Bond Arranger of the Year in Latin America. That was a award that used to belong to Goldman Sachs and private banks. Last year, it was BNDES who won the title. And we are a public bank. Basically, the infrastructure in Brazil, the main companies in Brazil, BNDES has been instrumental for everything in the country. The beautiful cases of Brazil, Vale, Suzano, they count on BNDES support always. Infrastructure, BNDES is key for infrastructure. We lack infrastructure. Without BNDES, it would be even worse. And some numbers of BNDES. Basically, we can double our assets with the same net worth that we have. So we have a lot of room to grow. And BNDES is the largest lender of renewable energy in the world. The second largest lender of renewable is Mitsubishi. They lend in various countries. BNDES just lend in Brazil. So thanks to BNDES, we have this renewable power grid. We have a lot of projects because BNDES also acts as advisor in the auctions of concessions and PPPs, and we have a huge pipeline. So our numbers, we can double, with our net worth, we can double our credit portfolio. We have roughly $100 billion to lend. And so this is basically the message that I would like to give you. And I also would like to point how important a bank like BNDES is to support, because I agree with Clarissa, the biggest challenge for a country with the we have the fundamentals, but cost of capital is very high in Brazil. If we pick a project in Europe or in the US, great part of the expenses comes with real estate, with equipment. In an emerging market like Brazil, the biggest cost usually is related to capital. Fundamentals of Brazil, if you look at S&P, Fitch, or Moody's, our numbers, the numbers of Brazil, Brazil is an investment grade already. But then, due to qualitative aspects, they downgrade Brazil. And then Brazil, it's not investment grade. And then they argue that it's because of regulatory legal instability, lack of regulatory framework. Honestly, if I look today at the US, where, I mean, we don't know if they will stick to Paris Agreement after elections, if they will stick to IRA. I mean, there is political instability everywhere in the world. But for some reason, they think that political instability in Latin America is bigger than anywhere else. And it's not true. But I mean, those, in my opinion, those are some concepts from the past that we need to rediscuss. Because these currently put a big burden on emerging countries. Cecile is here from International Energy Association. If we reduce just 1% the cost of capital for emerging market countries, there will be, we will save $150 billion in interests in those poor countries, emerging countries. So, I mean, the financial market needs to and the rating agents and we need to rediscuss how we are going to evaluate risks going forward. Because, like Isabella said, if we look to the past, I mean, the risks the risks are not the same. Risks going forward are different. So we have to figure out how we are going to evaluate the risks in the future. My final message to you is that, I mean, Brazil has a huge opportunity. If we need private and public cooperation, we need local and international cooperation. I think that Brazil can contribute to the decarbonization of the rest of the world, and with this cooperation, I think we will be there. Thank you very much.